watching. Hello, and welcome back to Coaching Conversations. I'm Maria Sabio.
And I'm Lourdes Laifer. Stay with us right to the end for some practical practices you can use right away.
Great. So today we're talking about the fantasy that keeps you stuck. The belief that if you could escape, right, either to a cabin, a beach, a new job, or even a different life, then finally you'd be happy. And I think that we've all had that fantasy, especially during, challenging times, which a lot of us are going through right now. And you spend all this energy planning the perfect getaway. But the moment you get there, you realize you brought the one thing you were really trying to escape, your untrained mind. We've all heard this, wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite Jon Kabat-Zinn quotes. And it's so true, right? And right there is part of the problem. We believe we can escape into an unfettered paradise, but really we're just taking along all of our baggage, right? We're taking it with us. And if I had known about this principle, well, I would have to say as far back as middle school, the choices and trajectory of my life would have been vastly different. And I'd like to think that I would have had the fortitude to stand in the truth of who I am much sooner and really, be myself much earlier. And this is why I do the work that I do, to help other people, shrink their suffering.
I really couldn't agree with you more, because when I think back, especially like high school, and the opportunities that I didn't see or didn't take advantage of because, of the emotional anxiety, that fitting in, that not knowing what you're doing in some cases, or, even just being a teenager, I actually feel a touch of sadness for that part of me in that era. And when I speak to my clients, especially those that had a lot of challenges, right from high school into young adulthood, or my clients that are struggled with alcohol, some of them that are in AA, and they say the same thing to me. I wish I had these principles when I was a teenager, or even as a young adult. I wouldn't have suffered as much. And it's just, they a lot of people tell me they wanted it sooner, anytime sooner, not so, not so late in their lives.
Yeah. And, that reminds me of something that one of my clients once said, an older gentleman who said it's never too late to learn how to love
Right.
yourself. And this is, goes to the core of what we're talking about, because it's that lack of self-acceptance, in my case, not enoughness, not
Right.
feeling like I was enough, that, just burdened me. But, the desire to run is so relatable, and many are still running. I think we've all definitely been there. And it's the feeling that life's noise is too loud, the chaos is too close, and the only solution is to check out. But the truth is, the search for a far off paradise is simply missing the point. The greatest, most peaceful refuge you're searching for is already inside you.
Right. So today we're going to help you. We're helping ourselves as well to declare our independence from these, the outside world, what the Stoics call the externals. And this is a powerful Stoic truth that we're sharing. You don't need to escape to far away places. Your mind is the true sanctuary, calm and unshaken by fame or praise. And we're going to show you how to, access your own inner fortress, how to train your mind to become that unshakable sanctuary that you can carry with you for the rest of your life, no matter what challenges you face.
Hmm. So it's about external dependencies and how to free yourself from them. We're convinced that peace is conditional, right? I'll be calm when my circumstances change, when I finally get that promotion, find the perfect partner, or I'll feel safe when I finally have more money in the bank. And the list goes on and on. You can fill in the blank for yourself. We outsource our mood and our worth to people and places that are constantly changing. And here's the core toxic false narrative, our self-talk that keeps us trapped. And it goes like something like this: my worth is determined by how much attention, praise, and validation I receive from others. And that belief is why we chase fame, likes, or even just approval from our family, friends, partners, and bosses. When we let our mood rise and fall with applause or criticism, we've handed over the keys to our happiness.
It's sad, and I think we've all done it. We also fall into the resentment trap. We get angry because people don't live to our standards and our expectations, especially close family members, even our kids. And we think they're deliberately trying to mess things up for us, but most people are just doing the best that they can with what they have. And that um, resentment, it's an anchor that you hold on to that, and it only takes you down. The limiting belief at play is I'm I must be able to control what's going on outside of me, that external environment, the people, the places, and the outcomes and results that we want, just to really, in most cases, to justify that we're right and to feel safe. And the moment we realize that other people's approvals, or that our circumstances, or our that we think that our unfair circumstances and even our body are external, fleeting things, they're outside of us, outside of our control, we stop letting these things pull us off balance. Fame and validation are just smoke and mirrors. And when we really when we realize this, we become the master of our mind.
Hmm. Yes. So, let's look at the emotional root of escapism. It's the desperate attempt to find a stable place in a world that is defined by constant change. We find the impermanence, the fact that everything we see and touch will soon fade. So we try to find a physical escape when the stability we need is actually internal. The core truth we resist is that change is constant. The praise we get today will be forgotten next week. The
Mhm.
difficulties we face today will be meaningless in the vastness of time. And, we're trading a lasting sense of self for a fleeting moment of external validation.
Right. We need a fresh way to understand this internal refuge. Let's imagine our mind as a sanctuary of the soul. It is the calm, unshakable center within us. It's our reason, our values, and our true self that resides there. And the only person with the key is us. The chaos outside, the traffic, the criticism, the judgment, the drama that's just out there, it's just the noise of the street outside the sanctuary walls. And, we can hear it. We sometimes can see it, but it can't enter unless we willingly open the doors and invite it in.
Yeah, the discipline of self mastery is all about keeping those doors closed. The moment you feel frustration or resentment rising, that's you
Mhm.
actually preparing to open the door to the street noise, right?
Mhm.
Remember the first most fundamental truth: the outside world can't touch your soul or mind unless you let it. And the challenging circumstances you're dealing with are simply your tools for evolution and growth. They might be messy, chaotic, unexpected, unwanted, but they are yours. And you can't change them, but you can change your perspective and how you respond to them at this moment.
Mhm. Yeah. The feeling or the temptation of fame, praise, and validation is simply the sound of the crowd outside the window. They're just shouting your name, and it can sound wonderful, right? People love the sound of their own names. I love the sound of my own name. But if you run outside every time the crowd cheers, you're giving them control over your focus. And the moment they forget you and start cheering for someone else, you're shattered, right? You settle into your own sanctuary, the calm center within you. Your mind is your true refuge. And I just can't say that, you know, more, because the thing that we are fighting, or the biggest saboteur of that refuge, is the need to be praised and accepted. And you have to ask yourself, how much of your daily effort is spent on your character, the choices that you make inside your mind, your inner sanctuary, versus your reputation, or that image that you're trying to carry off, that mask that you wear, the persona, the projection that you put on display.
Yeah, that dependence on external approval is really a cruel master. We're
Mhm.
terrified of being judged or criticized. Um, but here's the quiet freedom in the Stoic perspective. Reputation is a loan that anyone can recall at any time. It's owned by the crowd. When you chase approval and accolades, you're constantly living at the mercy of the crowd's fickle mood. And that's why praise and criticism are both fundamentally dangerous. They both demand you leave your sanctuary and step into the street. The moment you define yourself by what others think, you lose the power to define yourself by your own reason. So ask yourself this question: are you keeping score externally or internally?
Yeah, when when people say, I want to know who I am, or look inside, and Shakespeare says, know thyself. This is what we're talking about. This is knowing yourself. This is how you find true fulfillment. And, to get back to, that external scoring is what the world says you are. The world says you're successful. That's the stage. You're kind, you're flawed, you're wealthy, whatever you choose. It's written in sand. Like I said, it's just the stage. It changes, you know the, it, the sand, the line in the sand, it changes with the tide. And the internal score is what, that you acted with integrity, you're building your character, that you showed up with your best effort, and that you chose reason over impulse, and you chose virtue. The virtuous choice is to burn the external score. Don't keep that the applause as the decision of who you are. The decision has to come from inside. And so don't let the applause or the criticism of the crowd define your worth. Fame is just smoke and mirrors. It literally doesn't matter. What matters is the quiet conversation you have within yourself when the door is locked and the lights are out. Does your internal score show that you acted with virtue? If the answer is yes, then you become and you are unshaken and unshakable.
Yeah, and this reminds me of a conversation I was having recently about caring what other people think, and how if you're constantly catering to the opinion of others, then are you living your values? If you
Mhm.
live by your own values and virtues, what you consider important, then you know you're going to pay less attention. You're going to turn down the volume on what other people think of you. So let's bring back the final necessary truth, which is impermanence is your friend. The world is vast. Time stretches infinitely before and after you, and life is just a fleeting moment. And that may sound intimidating, but it's actually the greatest source of peace. If the praise you crave is fleeting, then the problem you're fighting right now is also fleeting.
Mhm.
When we embrace the constant flux of the universe, when we genuinely live like we know that everything will soon change and fade, we stop clinging to outcomes. We stop letting the challenges or unfair situations feel final. We realize we are a human with a role in a constantly changing order.
Yeah, that's a big realization. And this is the ultimate existential freedom. We are free to choose our internal state because you know our external scoring, that's going to be erased anyway. And we get to be the master of our mind and soul for the brief time that we have. And that is the true power, the power and privilege of being yourself. So stop letting the world's chaos shake you. Own your space, own your peace. And this is where the Stoics speak of sympathia and the connection to shared humanity. When we feel anger at others, we need to remember that everyone else is carrying their own complex stack of experiences. And they're doing the best that they can. And by choosing to let go of that resentment, the expectations, the judgment, we're not doing them a favor. We're simply choosing to keep our sanctuary quiet and peaceful.
Yeah, the truth is, you are the master of your mind and soul. The choice is always yours. So, are you going to be shaken by the random spin of atoms, the world's chaos, or are you going to be grounded by the power of your own reason? You're unstuck the moment you realize your peace is non negotiable and not determined by outside circumstances. The
Mhm.
ultimate freedom is realizing that your worth is built on your character within, not your reputation. So don't let fleeting praise control your mood or your worth. Find your peace inside and hold on tight.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're gonna, dive into just a little bit about the biology of what's happening. The mind and body are interconnected. So when when you start to chase fame or you're worrying about criticism, your brain is engaged in scanning for an external threat. And this puts your amygdala on high alert and creates an unstable, reactive emotional state. You know, it feels threatened. But the good news is accessing your inner fortress is a neuroscientific process. When you deliberately turn inward through deep breathing or a moment of reflection and you catch yourself, you activate the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. And this is the area of the brain that's responsible for regulating the fear, and it processes the risk, and it can stabilize your emotions.
Yeah, so think of your ventromedial prefrontal cortex as your emotional thermostat, right? When the outside world, the praise or the problem, heats up, your amygdala starts to boil. Not really, just metaphorically, right? But by turning inward, you manually engage the thermostat, your ventromedial prefrontal cortex, to set a steady, cool internal temperature that resists the external heat. So the choice to withhold consent, to not let the outside world in, is a physiological choice to maintain a stable, cool internal temperature, regardless of the chaos outside. That's what it means to be unshaken, unshakable, right? So here's a practice you can start using right away: the Inner Master Key, a 4-step framework to make your mind your true sanctuary. First, locate the gate, the stop. The instant you feel the urge to escape, compare, or resent, stop. Tell yourself, I'm searching for peace in the wrong place. This identifies the lie. Then turn inward, key. Use a physical anchor like 3 deep, slow breaths or the feeling of your feet on the floor, and visualize your inner sanctuary. Take a deliberate mental step inside the calm. This is your immediate refuge.
Yeah, and then assess the flaw, and that's the compassion. Look at the external source of your frustration, the person, the circumstances, the critic, whatever it is, the expectations, and reframe it with sympathy. Remind yourself they're doing the best they can with what they have. And this cancels the emotional debt or the resentment, and it eliminates the anger. And then confirm sovereignty. And that's the lock. State this truth: the world can't touch my soul unless I let it. And, you know, anchor your worth back to your internal character, not the external applause or approval. Lock the door and, own your peace. So, stop letting the world's chaos shake you. It's time to stop chasing peace in these fantasies of escape that we have and start finding it in our own mind.
So we'll leave you with this bit of wisdom from our soon to be released book, A Path to Resilience: Small Steps to an Unshakable You. You don't need to escape to faraway places. Your mind is the true sanctuary, calm and unshaken by fame or praise.
Yeah, whether we like it or not, the only thing that we're guaranteed is change, because change is constant. And the days are long, but life is short. And you find your peace inside. So hold on tight.
Thanks so much for being here. We're walking this path right alongside you. Take care of your heart, take care of your mind, take care of yourself. Support our work by liking, following, subscribing, and sharing this with someone who needs a reminder that they're stronger than they think they are. We'll see you next time.